All right, barn burner of a thread from Shamrock 007, and it's at Shamrock 00769. This is a big one about General Flynn. General Flynn is the keystone to bringing down the entire swamp cabal deep state. He always has been. He's the only person that knows the dirt on Barry, Barack Obama, Hillary Clinton, Loretta Lynch. It's the first time the cabal hasn't controlled the presidency in decades. First time he could safely speak. General Flynn has the biggest balls in the world. Look what he posted 2 days before the election. Mainstream media wouldn't touch it. They didn't report on it, didn't say General Flynn is a conspiracy theorist. They just ignored it, and it's still up today. Now check this out. November 4th, 2016. General Flynn tweets, hashtag spirit cooking with hashtag nevery Hillary, and then the capital letter Y. Some people think that's a symbol for adrenochrome. Hashtag drain the swamp. NYPD ready to make arrests in Wiener case via Breitbart News. Okay, so that's like off the charts level Pizzagate type conspiracy stuff that General Flynn is tweeting about a couple of days before the election. So let's go back to the time that he was the head of the he was the head of the DIA under Barack Obama. He was forced to only report crimes he knew of without breaking intel NDAs to the Attorney General. So, Section 1.6, heads of elements of the intelligence community. The heads of elements of the intelligence community shall, A, provide the director access to all information and intelligence relevant to the national security or that otherwise is required for the performance of the director's duties, to include administrative and other appropriate management information, except such information excluded by law by the President or by the Attorney General acting under this order at the direction of the President. And B, report to the Attorney General possible violations of federal criminal laws by employees and of specified federal criminal laws by any other person as provided in procedures agreed upon by the Attorney General and the head of the department, agency, or establishment concerned in a manner consistent with the protection of intelligence sources and methods as specified in those procedures. Now think about this logically for a moment. Report to who? The Attorney General? Hi, Loretta. I know some crimes that Hillary and Barack Obama committed, and even though you're their best friends, what happens if General Flynn wanted to talk about crimes committed by Deep State, Hillary, Barack Obama today, crimes that were committed from years earlier under Obama and Loretta tarmac meeting Lynch? Honestly, what happens? Perhaps dead of suicide from 13 shots to the back of the head and back? What happens if General Flynn speaks about it now, breaks his intelligence community NDAs, and reports about crimes under Barack Obama from years ago that weren't reported years ago, even though he had no one to report them to? So how did the plan allow General Flynn to talk about crimes he knew of without him wrecking his and his family's lives, where he could testify and it would be admissible in court? Well, his plea deal. Anyone ever hear of CNN, MSNBC investigative parrots reading off teleprompters digging into his plea deal that was made publicly available? Why didn't they report on it and try to break it down to the general public? Here's how it goes. Your client shall turn over to this office or other law enforcement authorities or direct such law enforcement authorities to any and all evidence of crimes about which your client is aware. Well, that plea deal just blew the fuck out of any intelligence community NDAs and gave him immunity for not reporting crimes he was aware of under the most corrupt administration in history. Crimes that administration was committing themselves. So, General Flynn set a trap. Plead guilty. To set up a plea deal that would allow him to speak about any and all crimes he was aware of to any, let me repeat, any law enforcement agency. Not just the sitting Attorney General while he was Director of Military Intelligence. So then, we have the deep state globalist Judge Sullivan. He wanted nothing to do with allowing that plea agreement to go through by allowing General Flynn to plead guilty. Literally the first judge in history to try to talk someone out of pleading guilty. Read this. This is from Judge Sullivan. The court takes its responsibility here today, as always, very seriously. Mr. Flynn's briefing concerned the court, as he raised issues that may affect or call into question his guilty plea and, at the very least, maybe his acceptance of responsibility. As such, the court concludes that it must now first ask Mr. Flynn certain questions to ensure that he entered his guilty plea knowingly, voluntarily, intelligently, and with fulsome and satisfactory advice of counsel. I cannot recall any incident in which the court has ever accepted a plea of guilty from someone who maintained that he was not guilty, and I don't intend to start today. So, I'm going to invite Mr. Flynn and his attorney or attorneys to come to the podium, and I'm going to ask the courtroom deputy to administer the oath to Mr. Flynn. Then he continued and asked General Flynn, "Are you sure you want to plead guilty?" Literally, Sullivan is like, "Come on, guy, I'm trying to dismiss the case. Change your plea." General Flynn was like, "Nah, I'm good, guy." The court says, "All right. Are you satisfied with the services provided by your attorneys?" Defendant, "I am." The court, "In certain special circumstances, I have over the years appointed an independent attorney to speak with the defendant, review the defendant's file, and conduct necessary research to render a second opinion for a defendant. Do you want the court to consider appointing an independent attorney for you in this case to give you a second opinion?" The defendant, "I do not, Your Honor." The court, "Do you feel you were competent and capable of entering into a guilty plea when you pled guilty on December 1st, 2017? The defendant, I do, Your Honor." Then Judge Sullivan lost his shit. Lost it. Started to call Flynn a traitor for not changing his plea to not guilty. Then Sullivan had to apologize publicly because he couldn't explain his outburst, calling someone a traitor for refusing to change their plea to not guilty. The judge asked Prosecutor Brandon Van Grack if Flynn could have been charged with treason for his convos with the Russian ambassador. Van Grack said that in terms of the evidence, that wasn't something the government was considering charging at the time. So, the recap. Judge was like, "Listen, friendo, change your plea to not guilty." Flynn, "No thanks." Judge, "You traitor." Judge tries to get DOJ to charge Flynn with treason. DOJ is like, "Nah, we gave him a plea deal to allow him to talk about any and all crimes he's aware of." Fuck. Wait. It gets better. So DOJ tries to drop all charges, and the deep state judge is like so fucked at this point. He won't even drop the charges. As soon as General Flynn can talk, they're all done. Done. And they know it. And finishing up with a tweet from Sarah Huckabee Sanders. Until activist Judge Emmett Sullivan closes the trial, General Michael Flynn is under a gag order pertaining to anything that might have been brought up during his inquisition. The gag order on Flynn is the perfect reason for the deep state to drag out the trial. This is about to get good.